Hi, and welcome back to Creative Live. I'm excited to have everyone joining us again today for another new class. Today we are introducing Lisa Carney's new class, Mobile Photography Day for Night Effect. If you haven't been following along with Lisa's new classes, she has a series of Lightroom Mobile classes that she has been coming out with over the last say month or so, maybe 2 months now. So I'm really excited for this class because it's such a cool visual effect. And Lisa, welcome to the stream. I'm so excited to have you back.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
So nice I'm honestly, this is the class I'm the most excited about. So I'm excited to see, we talked about this class probably 2 months ago as we were thinking of through this series, and this was the one I was the most excited about. So I'm really excited to show people how you transform these photos from day photos to night photos. Just as a reminder that you guys are all watching the live kickoff of Lisa's brand new class. If you are tuning in from social media, or if you're watching on the class page at creativelive.com, please tell us where you're tuning in from. Lisa, tell us where you're at right now.
Well, this time I'm in Los Angeles and hanging out. Santa Ana winds, as we talked about. It's
Yeah.
nice and windy here right now.
We were just talking about, as you guys all know, I'm between Vegas and Los Angeles myself. I'm in Vegas right now, and the Santa Ana winds are hitting us both. So it's we both
Like a connection.
Yeah, exactly. We could we're not together right now, but it feels like we're in the same place. So Lisa, tell us a little bit about this class and what excites you about it and why you made it.
Cool. Well, to tell you the truth, this was the class I was most excited about as well, because it's kind of extreme editing for mobile, and I think oftentimes folks have this really minimal idea of what can be done on mobile, and this is really pushing the boundaries, and I think it's kind of cool to see how far you can go with mobile. And the night thing, I got to tell you, the limitations of the camera make it so that it doesn't do low light level exposure very well. And this was kind of a way to cheat it, to do a workaround, as we like to say.
Totally. So, we kind of talked about this before, but why would somebody want to take do this sort of transformation? Why is this such a useful class for people?
Cool. Well, and thank you for asking. That is a great question. So, there's a few reasons. One, just flat out, production wise, for me, shooting at night with a low level light, not easy to do. So how am I going to get the images I want to do? So that's number one. Number two, I'm a single female who shoots it alone, and I just often don't feel safe being out alone at night shooting. And in fact, Kate, how this kind of whole concept came up is I was in Central Park in New York on a trip, and I was like, oh, I really want to shoot this at night. And I didn't feel safe. I just didn't feel safe being by myself. So this was kind of a workaround, which was kind of cool. And heck, for sometimes it's just effing cold out at night. I just don't want to go out. You know what I mean?
Totally,
So,
totally.
so it kind of was born of that. But it also, I think, with our art and our creativity, it's good to push ourselves and try different things and kind of. I'm going to tell you a little story. When I went to Art Center 110 years ago, there's a photographer who came named to talk to us, an inspirational photographer. His name was Gregory Heisler. And he said something that always stuck in my head. He said that when he does a job, he shoots it before he leaves, before he wraps and cuts the set, he turns around and shoots the exact same job just from the other direction. And he said, you'd be amazed how many times it was the other shot, the backwards shot, if you will. And in my own little way, I'm trying to do a backwards shooting, but with processing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure if he heard that right now, he would be so touched by that. Just the concept of taking that story from art school and reapplying it down the line in your career. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So let's dive in. We're gonna watch a little clip from the class and see a little insight into how the post-processing process works.
Yeah.
There's the before and after.
So I like to go to Donner Lake up in Truckee and shoot. And this day, and again, I don't go out when there's bears up there, for God's sake. So I don't go out too late. But I wanted a really moody shot. So in this, and this is how the class will be. I'll show you how, like, I take a daytime shot, and then I start. It's a process. So there's first lighting, and then there's color, and then there's selective edits, and all the juicy bits are in the selective edits, I assure you.
Yeah.
And but it's just to kind of go to show you how you can transfer this. So if you see in this film here, I did the lighting, overall exposure, and then a little bit of a temperature change. And then with the selective edits is where you can go in and actually say, great, I want a darker sky. So in this section here, I'm darkening the sky just a bit with a gradient, because they're masks. They're basically lighting masks you can use, as I like to call them. And what I like to do in the class too, you're going to see on this next part, is I fumble. I make a gradient from the bottom. And if you look at the gradient, it's going all cattywampus, because let's say the truth, trying to edit on a phone can be a little challenging. And, but that's okay. You just redo it. You just throw it away and start over again. It takes 30 seconds, if even. And then you can do the specular highlights on the water and the sun with the next section of, I mean, it's amazing the control you have. You can, darken, lighten, change color, and make it a brand, like, I think that's a brand new image.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely new. So yeah, the amount of control you can get is pretty remarkable. I like to say that Lightroom Mobile is a dark room in your hand. And at this point, I'm dodging and burning.
Yeah. And at this point, from conversations we've had, how often are you actually going on your computer and doing post-processing this nowadays? Feels like you're doing a lot more on mobile.
Oh my gosh. God, if I'm honest about this, I would say, in all honesty, for my photography, 95% is all on the phone. 95%. And the only Lightroom, one of the things I talked about in the class, the whole series of classes, is that Lightroom is now a full spectrum editing process. And what I mean by that is you can edit on your phone. The same shot you can edit on your iPad, which is bigger real estate if you need more room, because your thumb can't quite do it all. And then you can open it up on the web if you need to, or your desktop. And so what I will do occasionally is, if I just need to refine a mask, and in fact, I do that in this class, I open the exact same image on my desktop version of Lightroom. Takes 30 seconds. I mean, it's all seamless because it's all cloud-based. And then I can tighten up mask using a stylus, because every once in a while you want something a little tighter than this.
Yeah.
This is not so accurate. This much better.
Well, that's what we the more and more we've talked, especially as we've been creating this series, I've been learning, there's very few reasons you're getting off your phone nowadays. And that's just the progression of photography over, your lifetime as a photographer, just how cool it must be to go from film to digital to, to your phone now. And now it, like, just, the progression, and I think a lot of newer or amateur or even pro photographers, they don't think that Lightroom has the robust features that it does on the phone. And I think we all know nowadays the phone cameras are getting better and better. And so the idea of that progression has to be such an interesting thing for you as a photographer.
Well, and I'd really like to address this for a second, because I feel like it's up in the air. It's in the ether right now.
Yeah.
And what that is like, I was a 4x5 shooter, 4x5 film shooter, the old fashioned camera with the billows. That's my preferred method, or it was. And now I don't even own a DSLR. Like, I literally only shoot with my iPhone, and I get some snide comments now again. People are like, you and your phone.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, the technology is changing so rapidly, and so it's getting amazing, and the control you have and the ability you have. And then there's something else, I hope I can articulate this correctly, is there's something about the intimacy for me that I can have when I'm shooting people. The phone is so non-intrusive. People don't even see it anymore. Versus, like, for example, with Kenna and I went on a trip with Kenna to Cuba. It was an amazing experience. And most of the photographers had big old lenses and are sticking it in people's faces, which is fine. That's their gig. But for me, that kind of intimate rapport I was looking for, I had a little phone. I mean, half the time people didn't even know I was shooting them. And it just felt more, I don't know, less invasive. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, and to your point, as somebody who, like, because we all take photos on our phone, even from a professional photographer stance, it allows your subject to be so much more in their natural state, which is the goal of a photographer. You're trying to capture the true essence of your subject, and when you put that big lens out there, it inherently kind of changes the person's energy and demeanor, because I don't know why we're uncomfortable as humans in front of cameras, but we are, like, most people are.
Well, it's attention getting, isn't it? It's almost like I find it's almost like another person in the situation. And I swear, honestly, that the technology is getting so amazing. And with Lightroom, it's a dark room. So creatively, you can do so much.
Yeah. So why don't we look at some before and afters and start talking through, like, some of these before and afters are so cool.
Sorry for the coughing there. Excuse me.
That's all right. This one's from the lesson that we were just showing. Tell us a little bit about your approach to it. Ultimately, I think you still went out when the sun, was this a sunrise or sunset? Well,
it was a sunset. And it's interesting because when I went out with my friend Martin, and I was kind of like, oh, it doesn't look very dramatic out right now. I mean, it's pretty. Yeah. And then I thought, oh no, I got this. And I'll tell you, I did that edit sitting on the side of the lake. I do it right then and there. So so I can shoot. And then that way I can make some decisions about my exposure. Like, oh, do I need to change my exposure? Yeah, let me shoot it again and capture more detail in the highlights. And then I do it again. And it's so immediate.
Yeah. And let me ask you, do you, as creators, we often, sharing is part of our work, is part of the process. So is that, is it just that seamless where you don't have to sit and think about, is this the post I want to make? Are you automatically, you're editing and sharing immediately, or are you editing and holding on to them?
Girl, I was like, even in Cuba, I was in the back of a cart and I was sending, Kenna was even like, did you just post that to social? I'm like, I sure did. Yeah. And I will confess, that's the good news and the bad news.
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm posting too quickly. I do everything quick, whatever.
Yeah,
but whatever. It's my speed.
It's the way we just kind of think about things. It's I think because photography was such a long process previously, we beat ourselves up for doing things quickly, and that's just technology getting a little better for us. And is there really anything wrong with sharing immediately? I don't know. You were saying you do it so quickly, and why do we have to take the second to pause and decide if this is good enough? Like, the goal is to share your creativity and the beauty in the world. So what's wrong with sharing quickly and doing
it's
everything
interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like sketching. I call it visual sketching for myself now. And I'll rework it, make a better one. And those are the ones that end up like prints in the back of my, in my house. Yeah. But it's more like sketching. I have a little story I'll tell you. It's so ridiculous. It was 1 or 2 days after that photo shoot. I had a really bad hip injury for a while and literally could barely get up and walk. It was awful. And I went down to the lake with my friend Martin, and I got down I tend to shoot like I'm laying in the snow. No kidding, laying down in the snow. I couldn't get up. And he was halfway down the lake. This mobile device is so much my camera that it never occurred to me I could call him or text him and tell him to come help me get up. So I laid there for like 15 minutes going, he'll be back. Isn't that ridiculous? Because this is my camera. This is not my phone. Yeah. This is my camera.
That's great though. That says, you're using the device the way it speaks to you. And it's so funny how much it's so funny how much we like almost try to minimize the power of it being your camera, because it also does all of these other things.
Yeah.
Well, I want to do a few shout outs. We have lots of people joining from all over the world. We have British Columbia, Australia, Florida, Scotland. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Just as a reminder, this is Lisa Carney's live kickoff for her new class, which is a Lightroom Mobile class that she's teaching us how to take day photos into night. And so we're going to take a look at a few of the photos and talk through them. So let's take a look at the next one.
Awesome. All right. So, Prajna, I love this kid. This kid lives down the I love this kid. He's so sweet. And he lives down the street. And I said, hey, can I come shoot you? I want to do this day for night thing. So I'm working on a series with him. And again, it's shot with, this is actually shot with the depth camera on Lightroom Mobile, which actually helps create a mask for you. And yeah, I just was looking for something moody and dark. And this was during the George Floyd trial. And I was like, just had darkness on my mind. And I was like, oh, honey, can I come shoot you? And this one I took into Photoshop, and it took about 10 to 15 minutes to just finish up a little bit of masking around the hair in Photoshop.
Yeah, so as you approach data night, or yes, data night, sorry, photos, do you think about a person versus a scene differently when you're editing? What goes into the controls that you often play with when you're doing a landscape versus a person?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I would say it's pretty uniform. Like I do whatever is called for, but like with this shot with Prajna, I had that shot stuck in my head for about a week. Like I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted it to be dark, and I was like, okay, I know what I want to do on this. Sometimes I just happen upon a scene and I'll just shoot it. But this one was more like a planned out idea. And the beautiful thing about mobile and digital in general is you're not burning film. So I think I shot that same shot 10 different ways, different lenses, using depth capture, using high definition, using the pro camera, using the Apple camera, just so I could then, when I was editing, I could see which gave me the best result.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the beauty of shooting on mobile. You can take as many shots as you want. We have a question coming in from Jetty Anderson. Is there, or do you have a book out where I can learn to shoot with just my phone and ditch my DSLR?
Well, I would say I don't have a book yet. I would like to do a book, but I would say the boot camp that we have on Creative Live, because it really reviews different shooting techniques. You guys should know I'm not prescriptive though. I don't do, do you want like that shot of Prajna? I won't show you exactly how to do that shot for yourself, because when you shoot, it's going to be so different. I'll go through my steps. And in the boot camp, I talk about like, how does this camera work? How does this what's a selective edit? What is that? Yeah. What is the sharpening? And so I think you would find that boot camp really, really helpful to get you started. And I'd like to stress one other thing. I am a photographer and I am a retoucher. So when I'm talking about this stuff, I'm not talking about like, oh, hey, I found this phone and look what I found you can do. Yeah. I am like, great, I am a photographer. I understand exposure. I understand aperture. I understand density, blacks, whites, color. And so I'm talking to you in the same language that someone who had a DSLR would talk to you.
Yeah, I just dropped a link to that for you to check out. She did follow up and ask, which phone do you use? And I don't even know what that means.
Maybe which phone?
Maybe which phone? That is what she meant. I thought that was a photography term.
It's a term, girl. I will tell you, I say this all the time. People are sick of it. It's the wizard, not the wand. It does not matter what phone you use. So I happen to be on an iPhone 12. The Galaxies do really great long exposure, like darker exposure. So if you know you want to shoot nighttime stuff, maybe that's what you want to use. I'm really not into saying which device it is, because it doesn't matter. It's your vision, it's your creation. It doesn't matter what the box is, what the tool is. However, I will tell you, I love Moment lenses. I think they're incredible. And the depth capture in Lightroom Mobile is not yet available on an Android. It will be eventually, but it's not yet. So if that matters to you and you want that depth capture, you need to stick with an iPhone for now.
Good to know. Good to know. Let's look at the next before and after.
Oh, Pasadena.
Yeah. So both me and Lisa have ties to Pasadena and both spent time at this beautiful bridge. So tell us a little bit about this shot. And what I like most about it is that you added, the stars and the lights, and that's, I think, such a cool, wasn't even something I thought about in terms of day to night. I was thinking just making it darker and making it look like it's night, but you add so much depth to this one.
Well, and again, thank you. And this is all about pushing boundaries. So I'm a child of the 70s, and 70s television had day for night shooting all the time. Like TV, they'd be in the daytime making it look like nighttime. There's even a couple James Bond films where they do it. And so I'm really intrigued by that notion. Oh, the cat is now joining us. Sorry, kitty joining, kitty bomb. And there's some third-party apps where you can add beautiful flares. I mean, crazy cool flares, and weather effects like that. Those stars are actually snow on an application because they don't have stars, but I don't care. I'll use it. And that's one of the fun things about the phone and the class is I talk about, look, you're not just stuck with what Lightroom can do even. We can add some other stuff. You can add some moons, all sorts of stuff. And you can mask it all in your phone.
It's so cool. This shot, I was blown away by how in depth it was. And so what was the app that you pulled the lights from?
The lights are from Lens Flare, and the stars are from Lens Distort. Now, Lens Distort, which is a weird name for an app, they have flares as well, but I kind of like the lens flares from the other app. And then the Lens Distort, I got the snow stars.
Gotcha. And let me ask you, do those, are those integrating with Lightroom Mobile easily when you're on your phone, or are you pulling something, saving it, and then uploading it to Lightroom Mobile?
I'm exactly right. I'm pulling it out. They do not open. No, currently there's no extracurricular apps, as I like to call them, inside Lightroom Mobile. There is on Lightroom Classic, but not Lightroom. Not yet. Okay. They're coming.
Good to know. All right, let's take a look at the next one.
Oh, Sand Harbor, Lake Tahoe. I love Lake Tahoe. Yeah. All right. So I get a little obsessive. I can't help it. I really do. So I'm into this day for night thing. And when I'm out shooting now, I look at the light and I'm like, oh, this will make a great day for night. And what makes a really good day for night shot, I think, is water reflections. I did not add those star bits in the water. That's just the exposure. Yeah. I added nothing to this. This is all except for the stars, which I'm not sure if you can see on your monitor, but this is just a straight up shot and the tone is brought down. You have to expose for the highlights when you're shooting day for night because you need that detail when you bring it down. And then a little color grading going on in there. And yeah, it literally took me, I think, 50 seconds, a minute to do this edit.
It's crazy because it's such a transformation, and that's the fact that it's a minute of work for such a dramatic transformation is so crazy.
And I do want to point out, you'll notice there's a cloud on the upper right-hand corner in the original, and that was healed out. There is a heal tool. It's a really primitive heal tool in Lightroom Mobile, but it works. And so that just got healed out real quickly.
Okay. All right. Now, you talked a little bit about color grading. I think the next photo we're going to look at is a bunch of different color grading. So tell us a little bit about this, the different approaches to all these different night shots.
Well, and again, I think I'd like to invite people to experiment and consider when I go out and shoot. This once again is Donner Lake. And when I'm shooting, so I love that boat. I shoot that boat in every season. I've got a gazillion different shots of it in all different kinds of capacity. And I'm trying to push and see like, wow, what can I do with this? What would it look like if it was like a murder mystery book, if it was a Nancy Drew story? Or what if it's Indian summer? And this, I would say this is my sketchbook here. This is my attempt to actually just try experimentation for no other reason than to try it. And Kate, I'll tell you the coolest thing about this process is this has led me to a whole new series in my personal work. Because now I'm like, oh, that's a possible. Oh, I can do that. Oh, wait a minute. What if I did that with some flowers? Oh, wait a minute. And so I would just invite y'all out there to try this. Take one shot and see. Can you do 8 different looks with it?
Yeah.
What can you get? What can this camera do?
And that's, when I was looking through some of your before and afters, it was, and I looked at these ones, it was like, whoa, your vision of what day to night in your head is one thing. And these photos, like the way you play with them, they all are still the day to night effect, but they all look and feel so different and invoke such a different emotion. And it's like in your head, often it's just, it's like a pretty easy transformation. And then when you really start digging in, there's so much you can do. And I think that those photos really show the mood that you want to evoke from.
Yeah. And you know what, Kate, the other thing that's kind of, I think we should give ourselves the freedom to not have to have everything be a masterpiece.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? Like sketch. Like I didn't know if that muddy blue one with the light density on it was going to work. I don't know. But we could try it with there's no penalty. You know, no one's looking, no one's watching, no one's judging.
Yeah, exactly.
Including myself.
We get so fearful. And it's really, at the end of the day, just us judging ourselves. It's, no one else is on the phone. It's us being like, well, is this going to work? Well, who cares? Just try and see what happens.
Right.
And I think that's, Lisa, I love talking to you because you're somebody who breaks down a lot of the stigmas that I'm a professional photographer and I shoot a lot on my phone, and look, you didn't know. And so why do you care if I'm shooting from my phone or my DSLR or I'm shooting on film? If ultimately the result is still bringing you joy, who cares how it's happening?
I don't know if I mentioned this once, but a dear friend, an old teacher of mine, interviewed me for a magazine article on iPhoneography. And we were talking, and I said, dude, why do we have to call it iPhoneography? You don't call it Nikon photography.
Exactly.
You don't call it Hasselblad photography. Do you like the work or do you not like the work? That's all that matters. That is all that matters.
And it's honestly just a way to categorize it and downplay if ultimately you didn't know, then who cares? But it's just a way for us to distinguish one better than the other. And when the end result is still beautiful, what's the point of the categorization?
Yeah. It's almost like it's just the wrong conversation. It's not the conversation to be having. It's like missing the boat completely. And I'm not saying he was missing the boat. He was just having a dialogue about technology and process.
Totally.
But socially, in this world of our photography world, people can be really snobby about the equipment. And I would say it's not about the equipment. You need the right tool for the right job.
Yeah. Exactly.
If I was trying to do an Ansel Adams shot of landscape with amazing detail, like every leaf showing, great. My phone is not the tool for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are getting to the end of this little live stream, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us and giving people a little taste of what they're going to learn in the class today. And if you are watching on social media, make sure you head over to the link I've dropped in the comments. I'll drop it there for you again. The class will start here at 9:30 sharp. So make sure you're heading over to creativelive.com to watch the class. And if you are watching on the class page already, make sure to refresh your page so the class starts in just a couple minutes. So thank you all for joining us. And Lisa, thank you again for putting together such an amazing class.
Oh, thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Pursuing creativity is arguably the most practical thing that you can do.
We humans are adaptation champions. That's what makes us human, our ability to imagine.
The hard part is to look inside and say, what are my invisible beliefs that I have about money? I wanted to figure out how it actually worked.
And you are really here because you became passionate about an idea.
What does it take to capture great photographs of birds? You have to be grounded in your cameras. You need to understand the technology.
Just like any band shoot, we're looking to capture great shots of the band themselves playing on stage. So the drummer shot, lead singer, guitars.
How do you even prepare to shoot with your phone? And then we're actually going to go into the edit.
Once you hit rock bottom, there's no place to go but up. You learn what's real. You learn what's needed.
In astrophotography, there is a great deal more planning involved because you are literally shooting in the dark.
We can't change others, but we can change our perspective.
Wow, that's a good way to start the day.
I had tears in my eyes.
If you're feeling isolated and looking for creative connection, try tuning into creativelive.com/TV. That's where we've got a 24/7 live stream from the kitchen counters.
I can do that backlit shot that I really like to do.
From the studios and living rooms of many of the world's top creators, where we're doing musical performances, Q&As, cooking shows, virtual book tour events, drawing, spoken word poetry, and more.
Life passed me by waiting for an invitation when the world is greater than my nation or my occupation. Be someone you've never been. You feel all that adrenaline, it's medicine.
It actually helps me feel like my days are more purposeful.
I hope that out of this deep pain will come some collective growth.
Dive into Creative Live TV today.